All right.
Let's bring in.
You know what time it is. There they are. Huge day.
How you doing?
What's going on?
Congratulations on today. What's new? Would you mind introducing yourselves and then just giving a quick breakdown of what's going on today over at Google?
Yeah, I can go first. I'm Tulsee. I lead the product team for Gemini.
Cool.
And I'm Logan. I work on some of the Gemini developer tools.
What are the top 3 announcements today? What's the most exciting thing? What is the one takeaway for the audience?
Ooh, I'll start with one takeaway. I think the one takeaway is like Gemini, at least from my perspective, Gemini 2.5 is just getting better.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just getting better in terms of like the quality of the models themselves,
Mm-hmm.
but we're now bringing that capability everywhere. So AI mode is coming to everyone, which is kind of our advanced version of search.
Mm-hmm.
Gemini is coming to glasses. Which is going to be amazing. Gemini is coming in even better ways to Gemini app with more rate limits and just more access and better features.
Yeah, I was going to have to
Gemini
spend
glasses. Is this like a return of Google Glass? Is this a new
Well, yeah,
product?
so part of the issue
Yeah.
for us today is that we got to watch like 20 minutes of IO and then we started our own show. So we still have to catch up, but yeah, and then it's good you mentioned rate limiting because I was worried I was going to have to spend this entire conversation moderating John asking for higher rate limits from you guys.
I hit
so
a
it's
rate
good.
limit on VO2.
Whatever you need.
Thank you.
Text me, we'll make it happen.
Anyways, sorry, Tulsee, continue.
No, I think it's like an exciting time for us because I think the models continue to get better. We released a new version of Gemini 2.5 Flash today. We introduced improved versions of 2.5 Pro with the deep think, kind of deeper reasoning version of the model. And so I think the models are getting better, but it's also amazing to now see them actually really landing in Google products in a very real way.
Yeah.
I don't know what are your takeaways or top 3 are.
Yeah, I think my TLDR is Google's firing on all cylinders across every vertical, across every dimension. And like IO is this like weird manifestation of this
Of the
actually
breath.
happening
Yeah.
where you just like, I'm like, holy, like even as someone who spends all day working with Tulsee, working with our teams and seeing this happen, like IO is this crazy reminder of like just how much breadth Google has in the product areas and just how many people the model innovation touches. And it's, I think today's a celebration of all that hard work and making all that happen.
Yeah. How do you think about the messaging from like the continuum of like Google's so big that like consumers will watch a developer focused keynote. Some of the products that are launched are very consumer facing, but then there's obviously developers that want to build on top of these tools. And then there's also stock analysts that are probably watching for how things are going on benchmarks or MAUs or any new data points. And so, what are you focused on kind of messaging to the different audiences? Is there a concept of speaking to multiple audiences or do you just try and laser focused in on dev specifically?
No, I think we really do want to speak to multiple audiences. I think you hit the nail on the head in saying like, there are definitely experiences that we talk about here at IO that are very consumer focused.
Yeah.
We also know though that developers are trying to build for consumers,
Sure.
right? So when you showcase amazing consumer experiences, you are also able to speak to devs because you can speak to them about how you actually were able to build that experience and what they can do to build experiences like the ones that you're trying to build, right? And so I think there's an art to trying to figure out what are the right demos, what are the right stories that really can land cross audience. And then we try to create sections that are maybe more targeted. So for example, I spoke earlier today, Logan spoke in the developer keynote, really targeted at developers and what developers can do. And then there are obviously sections around search or glasses or Gemini app that are much more targeted at consumers.
Yes.
I walked straight off the dev demo stage right here.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, you said you could do 2 and you also said your keynote was starting at 1:30. I was like, are you worried somebody might ask an extra question?
Well, you can be in multiple places at once. It's a skill.
This is amazing. How important do you think those demos are? Because we saw ChatGPT break through with the Studio Ghibli moment. Everyone was memeing the Ghiblis. I was recently using VO2 to generate video of cars with specific liveries and decals on them driving around, and the result was fantastic. But it hasn't broken through in the same way, even though I feel like the model and just more importantly, the accessibility, because I was able to generate a video from a Gemini chat box and I didn't have to go to a different app for that. And I saw in the Apple App Store, the Gemini promoted post is basically like VO2 is here.
And the output was so good that I showed
good.
it to somebody and they They said John had generated an image of a Lamborghini that had full TBPN branding on it, and I showed it to somebody, and they were like, "When did you do that?" And I was like, and they were like,
"That's right."
Was this how you made your promo video? It was really just VO behind.
No, that's our next promo video.
But actually, also on that note, I think you probably haven't seen that part of the keynote yet, but we shipped VO3 today. And it's awesome, and it has audio. It's amazing.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah, I was thinking about that because it was missing audio, and I was like, this is the missing thing. I need to go find another model and then figure out how to inference that or whatever. But yeah, I mean, in terms of creating these like memeable moments or something that can go viral, is that something that's even thought of, or is it more just like turn it loose and hopefully something happens?
I think the question is like, you want to distribute the capability, and the question is like, is that Google's job, or is it the developers building on your guys' platform to do that sort of last mile delivery to users?
Yeah.
I think the use case bit is actually really important, because I think despite like I feel like we're all sort of seeing everything that's happening and we're close to it, but like there's so many people who actually have no idea. And it's like every day, I think we need like a tracker of like the number of new people entering the AI world every day. But like, I imagine it's like some reasonable percentage of all people who are using these products. And like, most products are still a blank, empty chat screen somewhere. So like showing that use case of what's possible is super important. And I feel like a lot of the demos from IO today were like pushing that frontier in a really meaningful way. But I think also to answer the question of like whose responsibility is it, like I think Google, we get to do both, which is fun. Like we get to go and build a lot of these use cases for developers and make it possible for them to, bring that to their consumers. But then we also get to be like dog food and like really walk the walk and build those consumer experiences ourselves and find a way to make a memeable moment.
Yeah. How much of what is announced are more like showcases that could be built into other products long term? Because I was looking at, somebody was saying like Google Assistant has less 5-star ratings than Gemini, but you could imagine Gemini being like a demo for what's coming in Google Assistant, but it seems like Gemini's just gotten so big that it's like bigger than Assistant now. And so you have this weird thing where you're experimenting in this fun sandbox, but if you're really successful, then people just start using that, and then you just move off of the other thing. Is that like a deliberate part of the strategy, or just like a natural outgrowth of like the modern AI development strategy that you put stuff out, and if it goes really big, you just let your winners ride?
I think it's a good problem to have. I think if we're in a world where the experiments we're trying, or the new kind of surfaces we're building, or the new types of use cases we're building actually really resonate with users, and then we're in a place where we actually want to build those and scale those out. I think what we're trying to do, so at the end of the day, what we want to build is products that people love and really want to use, right? And I think there's 3 ways you can do that. You can try to build new features into your existing products. I think in a lot of cases that makes sense, right? So for example, like AI mode on search today. But in some cases, if you do too much of that, you bloat the existing product. It becomes harder to use and understand, versus being able to create a new surface where you actually can really rethink the UX, really rethink how users are supposed to think about the product. And then you can look at that and say, well, does this really make sense as a standalone, or does it actually merge with other ways that users are using different products, right? And it actually fits into their existing workflows in some way. And so I don't think we want to pigeonhole ourselves into just, hey, we need to consistently build on one product, right? We want to give ourselves the flexibility to create ways for users to build new mental models and then figure out how those things come together.
And I think this search example is actually a great one, because if you saw, we announced deep research in the Gemini app, came out, I think all the way back in December, and it was like pioneered the deep research category, and Google launched that in the Gemini app, and people love it. It's a crazy product experience. And then like, that's now like, I think the feedback was, this is an incredible experience. Not everyone in the world is a Gemini app customer. There's a whole lot of people in search. And like now, I think it's called Deep Search is available as part of AI mode inside of just like basic Google search, which is going to reach hopefully even many
larger surface,
millions of more users than are using the
couple
Gemini
billion.
A couple billion,
just a B or two.
Talk about MCP. Was there like a sigh of relief that Google's leaning into MCP? Was it ever a question, or was it something that was like pretty easily adopted across Google?
I think it's been fascinating to see like how quickly the world has like I feel like with standards, like people I feel like are often like very slow moving to be like, do we adopt this? There's like a whole, many year battles with different standards competing. And I feel like everyone was just like, MCP came out, everyone's like, okay, we'll use MCP.
Yeah, XKCD, it's that XKCD meme. There's 10 standards. We need another. We just need one standard. Now there's 11 standards. But in this case, we actually got the good ending.
It's important though. Like I think developers are building stuff. I think in this moment where like, the world is still trying to figure out how to build robust agentic systems, like having people not spend all the time just rewriting the same framework 50 times over, like is like actually a net benefit for the world. So, and I think the team that built MCP at Anthropic did a really, really good job. And it was a smart move by them to like actually make it an open standard, which they could have easily not done. And I think it's the right thing for the ecosystem.
Yeah, it puts developers first in I think the right way.
Yeah. What is the overall messaging to developers? It seemed like Satya on stage at Microsoft's Build was very much like, we host every single model. We'll give you DeepSeek if you want. We're partnering with X. Google, in my mind, has always just been like, look, we invented the transformer. We have the biggest, best models. We're dominating the Pareto curve. Are you guys seeing more as like a one-stop shop, or do you think there'll be more model agnosticism in the future with regard to GCP?
I think GCP already has this. So GCP, like we do, like obviously, Tulsee and the team do a great job with Gemini models. We want the world to use Gemini, but GCP does actually have like, I think it's over 175 different models that are available through the model garden. You can get Anthropic's models. You can get a lot of other models. So I think for customers on cloud, like that makes perfect sense. They need that, like that's a requirement. Like the world doesn't want to, be locked into a single model. But I think like we get to see these like really, really interesting experiences that can only be built into Gemini because of the like stack of Google's model innovation. So we're going to keep pushing on Gemini models too.
That's the goal.
Yeah. And then on the, developers that might be working with Google, I imagine that the conversation is a little more nuanced if you're actually scaling a growing app on Google infrastructure. Like I ran into a rate limit as a random user, but if you're actually thinking about scaling a startup, unless you're thinking about building Stargate, you're probably able to scale pretty efficiently. But have you been seeing companies run into any sort of like scaling or rate limits or challenges as they kind of grow on Google?
Email me. My email's online. I'm on Twitter 14 hours a day. So whatever you need, email me. We'll make sure it doesn't happen. I think in general, like this is like, as far as like a class of problems that developers have in this moment, I think they're like very real. Like I hear this and see people all the time. The challenge is like compute is like it's like literally a currency almost. So like we have to make sure we get the right compute to the right people who are actually building stuff. And like it's not an easy process to do that. But I think if people need stuff, please reach out to the team. Actually, reach out to Tulsee too.
Spread the love. Don't just send don't just create CX tickets for Logan. Maybe you talk about a couple of the other kind of product level announcements. You guys had Jules, an asynchronous coding agent. You want to speak to that a little bit? I'm curious to get your.
Yeah, we're really excited about Jules. So actually, like at jules.google today, you can sign up for the beta. But basically, the idea with Jules is we really want to start thinking through more and more use cases for how we can build essentially assistance for an agentive assistance for developers, right? And so you can think about Jules as trying to take aspects of the workload that are frustrating, that are time consuming, and can actually operate on them in the background, right? So the example I gave earlier today is Node.js, being able to like update an outdated code base for like the latest version, right? But I think it's really about how can you actually be able to assign tasks and let the model run and complete those tasks and come back and actually then have this like relationship with the developer where these tasks can get completed, can come back, can iterate together and build that kind of collaboration setup.
And you can run multiple at once?
You can run multiple at once.
And I think in classic Google fashion, you can sign up and use it for free right now, which I think is really cool. Like I think part of this is if you look at what's Google's job in the world right now, like I think part of this is like we have this stewardship role of making sure, you know, developers, people who are using search, all et cetera, like know what's happening with this AI technology and can actually get their hands
and
on
can try it.
Yeah, and can try it and like know that it's available to them. So anyone can sign up. I think the queue time for tasks is kind of high right now because everyone is flooding Jules, but hopefully as they scale up capacity, we'll.
Yeah, I mean, also, and I think like what's been actually really exciting today is to see and get the feedback on Jules, because we've obviously been trying it internally and using it, but actually getting it in the hands of real developers, getting that feedback. That's how we can actually prioritize what types of activities do we need to prioritize in Jules, what use cases and features are most valuable for developers, how do we build that up? And so it's actually like a very self-fulfilling prophecy, I think, for how this will go, hopefully.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Have either of you had a chance to actually sit and get the Project Starline demo? I remember a couple of years ago, this is the 3D, how would you describe it? 3D video conferencing?
Yeah, like video conferencing plus.
Yeah, plus. And there were a whole bunch of videos from influencers who were there who got the demo and like blown away. And they were like, I filmed it with my camera and you can't really see the effect, but you'll see my reaction. But it's exciting that it sounds like that's going into production in partnership with HP, but is there anything else to say there? Have you had a reaction or any test demos?
I'll be honest, which I had that same experience that the influencers had, which is I used the Project Starline room to take a meet call, but I was meeting with someone who wasn't in one of the other groups. So I have no idea, like maybe I looked different or something like that, but they weren't. They were just like
they were a normal.
They were in their home office. So, but it looks cool. Like I'm hopeful.
Yeah, it's a very cool setup.
As somebody who works at home too much, I'm interested so that people can sort of feel my presence hopefully in the future.
Well, if you get in your car and drive, you're going to miss all the DMs from developers that are, asking.
You need Logan to stay home with his Starline setup.
Stay locked in.
Yeah, I mean, we've been kind of in like, I mean, I remember I bought a 3D TV like a decade ago probably, and we've been waiting for like, okay, 4K, we can't really see anything past 4K, but something like this would be very, very cool if it were.
Notebook LM. Number 4 in the charts, big launch, new mobile app. I'm sure you guys never lost faith internally, but I think people externally were kind of had been frustrated because they liked the product so much.
They felt like it just
and they didn't feel like it wasn't getting kind of the investment. Any color to add there?
Lots of Notebook LM progress. I think people sort of felt this, which is interesting. And we had a bunch of conversations around why, but it was like, the team is still cooking, like they're still shipping a bunch of stuff. I think part of it was like the expectations were just like super, super high now because a lot of the stuff they shipped was awesome, but they had a ton of new features that just landed and it's been awesome.
I think also this team is one, even if you look at the history of Notebook LM, like we actually shipped Notebook LM relatively quietly. And then it got a lot of pickup because it was just such an amazing product to use. And so I think we've taken the strategy with Notebook LM where we've sort of tried to lead with the product leading almost, as opposed to just trying to like cook up a bunch of noise. And I think the Notebook LM team has just been silently making the product better and better and better.
Right. And we are going to have Tulsee cook up a bunch more noise for Notebook LM. This is a great way for you to get more tweets. Is just firing off Notebook LM updates.
Well, it's good. I mean, the fact that there was like organic, real pull from the market, and it wasn't just like, hey, we have a bunch of distribution. Let's make everybody aware of this right away.
Yeah. What was the original Notebook LM? Because I mean, there's research previews, there's developer previews now, there's alphas, betas. I feel like there's 25 different ways to say like, don't hold us accountable to we launching this product. What is the actual flow these days for just getting a product? Wasn't Gmail in beta for like a decade or something like that? This is kind of like in tech culture broadly. But I mean, a lot of things people are just like, if I can use it, I expect it to be a consumer product. But did Notebook LM go through like a particular pipeline, or do you have like a structure for these launches over there?
Yeah, Notebook LM came through Google Labs. Google Labs is Josh, I don't know if y'all follow Josh Woodward, but Josh Woodward runs Google Labs and the Gemini app now. And Gemini app is obviously generally available and not in Labs, but Labs does all the early stage bets. So actually AI Studio, the project that I work on, out of Labs, same with the Gemini API, Notebook LM, Jules came out of
today.
Labs.
Some things we showcased. So we showcased on stage, we showcased Pinhole. We showcased Stitch and with Jules. Right. All of these are products that kind of came out of.
And it's like
Labs.
it's like
break those down really quickly. Those other Labs products, Stitch and
Yeah. So, I mean, you were actually demoing Stitch earlier, right?
Stitch, yeah. I didn't. Josh demoed Stitch right before I got on stage, but Stitch, similar sort of vibe coding, vibe designing setup, where you can go in and ask the models to like go and build native mobile apps, I think is what it's actually building out of the box.
And then Pinhole basically builds off the magic of VO3 and sort of multimodal generation. So I think really what we're trying to do with labs is, or Josh is trying to do with labs, what we're trying to do with labs is use it as a way to take these technologies and start testing what new surfaces, what new UX, what new types of products can you build. And then like ideally like Notebook LM, they're well loved and we actually like can hit a moment in the market where we can find new product market fit. And that's really why we're trying to create this incubation engine. And then we can take those ideas and both bring them to our products as well as actually ship them as standalone products.
And principally, they're also like very close to the model teams. So it's not this like, they're they're collaborating with Tulsee's team, like the PMs are all sitting in the same places. So there is this like innovation at the model level turns into innovation at the product level. And I think those teams are like some of the first recipients of that stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I feel like Gemini has a voice mode now that you can click over and talk to the LLM, and it's kind of like almost a separate feature path from just dictating and then having it read to you, even though that's a very similar auditory experience. You could imagine Notebook LM being like a feature inside the Gemini app, but right now it's kind of going down separate tech trees and making
it kind of is. So we brought audio overviews and deep research, and like I think the interplay between these things are like all kind of connected. I think there's like some like very bespoke Notebook LM stuff that you'll like probably not have in the Gemini app. But I think the stuff that works, like there's no reason to not. It's like it's all under Josh's umbrella, so like he gets to easily be able to bring those things
and I think like the underlying technology, like Logan said, we're trying to make sure that the model teams in these products are very close together. So for example, Notebook LM has now native audio, which is one of the things we talked about today, which is really like Gemini being able to natively generate audio, which makes it more like multilingual friendly, more natural. And so that kind of technology, we can use to make Notebook LM better. We're also bringing that to Gemini Live. We're bringing that to, other parts of the Gemini app over the course of the next, months. And I think that kind of synergy means that you're going to get the best of these experiences depending on your use case in different places.
Yeah, it's an interesting product challenge. I've run into weird scenarios with ChatGPT deep research. I'll generate some huge research report and then I'll be like, read this to me. But it clearly gets lost once it's reading halfway through and starts hallucinating and stuff. So like there's some interesting challenge to actually make all of this, like if you generate 5,000 words of text, actually getting it into the human's brain. It's not enough just to be like, here's your research report. Like you actually have to make it accessible.
Deep research to audio overview, I think, is that flow. Like,
that makes sense.
It does work. It's like
it's actually awesome
because the deep research reports are like 46 pages. I'm
like, exactly. I don't have time for that.
Like no
46 whole pages.
46 pages. I'm not reading it. Like, give me a one pager, or give me like 3 minutes of someone like having a casual conversation.
Give me a YouTube short generated by VO3. That's what I need.
Yeah.
What are you saying?
That makes sense. Eventually, you two are just going to be an audio overview. With your, your own bespoke taste.
Yeah. We're not letting Notebook LM disrupt us. We're coming into the show completely unprepared, but we listened to a 10-minute Notebook LM on the thing we're about to talk about, so we have a little bit of context. Anyways, you guys have been shipping like crazy. What can people expect from you now? Are you going to rest on your laurels? Are you going to, just get a little overconfident, or is it, business as usual,
sabbatical time,
back to the grind?
A little overconfident, I think, will be good, because I think like we've done a lot of, there's just been so much stuff that the team has done. So I think like people should be proud of all the work that's gone into it. But I think the work just starts now. I woke up this morning and I was like, I'm writing the doc about how we need to go heads down for the next 6 months and land the 50 things that need to happen, because there's like so much stuff that's still cooking in the pipeline, and it's going to be awesome to see all that land.
Yeah, I think also like I really do think we're hitting our stride in so many of these areas.
It feels like it. Even some of the posts, like even Sundar's posts, like over the last 24 hours, I was like, he's feeling good going into IO. You could tell. So the energy is palpable.
Yeah, and so I think we want to use that energy. Like I think the momentum coming out from today is really about like, okay, how do we take the excitement? How do we take the energy? How do we take the feedback and like actually really use it to continue to just build awesome things? So I think we're just at the beginning. Like this actually really is the start of what's going to be an exciting rest of the year, I think.
And we'll make sure that you two are in person for the next.
Oh yeah, we should.
Yeah, let's do it.
It could be more than 24 hours heads up if you want to come in person.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need a whole calendar for these things.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you both for making time to come on. It's really great to hear, and congratulations on all the progress. We'll do it again soon.
Thank you. Thanks for
having us.
We'll talk
to you soon.
Cheers. All right. Have fun, guys.